I want to thank you guys for coming to the call tonight. This is my regular Monday night webinar, the Here to Help You webinar. I do these calls once a week for you guys, give you a chance to come on here and I'll show a little demonstration or do a presentation of some sort. Then I answer questions I got on the replay forms from the previous week, and then I answer you guys live questions after that if you have any. Like I said, that I do these calls once a week just for you guys, just give you a chance once a week to come on here and hopefully learn a little something and get a chance to get any questions answered that you might have that hopefully, it'll help you some way in your online business in some way. There's hardly ever anything ever for sale on these calls, although tonight, it being Cyber Monday, I probably will mention my Cyber Monday sale sometime tonight before we leave, but I'm not on here tonight to try to sell you on any of that. Like I said, these calls are just for you guys, just to give you a chance to learn a little something and hopefully answer your questions if you have any, and hopefully it'll help you out in some way. So tonight we're going to talk about another part of your online marketing strategy, something that most people overlook and don't talk about very much, or maybe not have had any training on it, so it's something that is probably new to a lot of people. But we're going to talk about stepping out from behind your autoresponder and getting to know your prospects and your customers. What we're going to talk about tonight is another part of your online marketing strategy you should be employing, and we're going to title this one The Return Path. Now, one of the things that we all want as online marketers is repeat customers. That's our ultimate goal, is to build a customer base and then to have customers that buy from us repeatedly instead of just making one-off sales. But one of the things that we often overlook is how to create the scenario that invites our return or past customers back to our products and services. So what could have been a customer for life most often turns out to be a one-time sale. A lot of times, especially when we're brand new to getting our online businesses set up, we're told to get a website, get an autoresponder, get a product to sell, and then let things run on autopilot and let the autoresponder do all the heavy lifting for you. And years ago, that did work fairly well, and you did really well if you had that system set up. And it's still recommended that you have that today. But in today's world, it's a little tougher than having just those three things in place. You actually have to go outside of that a little bit more to start generating, what is considered a decent income or an income worthwhile for investing your time. One-off sales are great. If you can create a product and you can put it out there for sale, you make a bunch of sales off of it, that's great. But all products after a while die down. And even though it may be a product, that's evergreen, it will get, sales continually for a long period of time, months or years. The initial rush of launching a product is going to be your most sales, but then eventually they all die down, and the sales start to wither out, and you just get them occasionally here and there, or depending on how much you promote it, you may get another spurts of sales, depending on how much you actually promote products that you create. So a lot of times, when we're first starting out our online businesses, like I said, we're told, to get a website, get an autoresponder, get a product for sale, or go into affiliate marketing, whichever way you might decide to go, or CPA marketing, whatever it might be. And that's all we're told, is to do those things. And it turns out to be, a constant churn of doing the same thing repetitively over and over and over again, and trying to build a bigger and bigger list to get more people exposed to the, whatever it is you're trying to market, whether it be products or services or affiliate products or CPA offers, whatever it might be. We're often not told about how to get these customers and prospects that are interested in you to come back again later to make repeat sales, to become repeat buyers. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about the return path, or in other words, increasing our customer value. Whether you know it or not, when you bring in a new lead or a prospect into your sales funnel, they have, a value assigned to them. The first initial value, as they come in, it's negative. You've spent some sort of time and effort or money to acquire that prospect into your sales funnel, and initially they haven't purchased anything from you, so it's a negative investment. You're actually losing money on them when they first come in. But your hopes is that you have enough of a draw, enough of an attention grabber that they're going to listen to you and they're going to at least make some sort of a purchase from you. And at that point, depending on what time and effort and money you've invested in acquiring a customer, that it'll start out to be a profit instead of a loss. So what we want to talk about tonight is increasing that overall customer value instead of just getting the initial return on investment on their first initial purchase, getting them to come back later and purchase some of your other products and services. So first off, let's start by looking at your typical sales funnel. And this is the general sales funnel that everybody's used to, that you've seen over and over again by products that you've purchased. And then if you've set up online products for sale, this is probably the typical sales funnel that you've used as well. It starts out with some sort of a lead magnet, and this is in the case of, list building and getting people to enter your sales funnel through a free offer. You offer them some sort of a lead magnet. Then the next thing you do is you have either an OTO offer, a one-time offer, or a tripwire product that you're selling that's just ridiculously low, that there's just no way they can refuse it, or you have some sort of a qualifier offer that's something that's priced really low, that's has an extreme value to it, but you've got it priced really low just to get people qualified that they are people that would spend money, instead of people that's looking for something for free that have no interest in ever buying anything from you. And then the general flow for that goes, if they say yes to whatever your first initial offer is, you offer them some sort of an upsell. And then whether they say yes or no, you put them on an autoresponder series of messages. And then you try to sell them your back-end service, your back-end offers through your autoresponder messages. And again, if they do decide to turn down your back-end offers, well, then you have another set of messages or an extended set of messages in your autoresponder series to try to convince them to take the back-end offer. This is the general autopilot method that people talk about, that all you have to do is just drive traffic into the funnel and let the autoresponder take over and do all of the sales for you, and to do all the heavy lifting. And most of the time, this is where most people stop. This is where most marketers stop, is by relying everything, all of the conversions and all the heavy lifting on their autoresponder, letting their autoresponder do every bit of the selling and the convincing for them. So to create a true return path, you must offer the customer or your prospect, if they haven't purchased anything yet, other avenues to get to know you. Because one thing you have to remember in anything that you're selling online, whether it's product or services or whatever it might be, people don't buy products, they buy results, fixes, or cures is what they're after. They're not out looking to buy a product. They're wanting to solve some sort of a problem or get some sort of better results than what you were getting, or fix something that's not working right. Now they buy these results, fixes, and cures from people that they know and trust. Now you'll notice I left out the word like there. One of the things we're taught in list building is to build the know, like, and trust. And definitely, that does help if you can do that. But people don't always have to like you to buy something from you. As long as they know you and they know what you stand for and they can trust that what you're offering them is real and it will solve their problem or fix the problem they have or cure whatever it is they're wanting to cure. Well, it doesn't matter if they like you or not. If they have that level of trust in you and they know that you stand behind and you stand for something, they're going to be the one. You're going to be the one that they turn to when they're looking to make a purchase of something to solve that problem. So it's essential that you reach out from behind your autoresponder and show them who you really are. Now, this is the part that most people have a problem with, is exposing themselves on the internet, letting their guard down, stepping outside their comfort zone, and letting people know who they really are. Now, I'm not saying you got to go out there and just be all out and be totally open with everything, but you need to expose yourself enough to where people can first off recognize you when they see you in other places on the internet. Because whether you know it or not, the places you hang out is a lot of times the same places that your prospects and customers are going to hang out as well. So if you're stepping outside from behind your autoresponder and getting out and mingling with these people, they're going to start recognizing you and branding you with whatever it is that you're participating in out in these other venues out on the internet. And once they get to where they know you, they can recognize you, well, then they will start to listen to you. And then once they start listening to you, they will start developing a trust for what that you have to say. So how do you do this? How do you step out from behind the autoresponder and get out to where people can recognize you and know you and mingle with you and get to where they both know and trust you? Well, obviously, the first task you have is to wow or amaze them from the very beginning so that they will open your emails. That's the absolute critical part, is to getting the people to at least open your first and second and third emails, to at least they're listening to you at the very beginning. And if you look at your autoresponder stats, most people, they will open your first 2 or 3 emails just to see what kind of emails they can expect to get from you. Which during those first 3 to 5 emails is your first initial shot to get people to listen to you and get them to step out from behind the email, the inbox, and follow you out on places on the internet wherever you might be hanging out. So this is why it's real critical that you have a real high quality lead magnet. So the first initial thing that you amaze them and wow them with is the amount of great and original content or whatever it might be, piece of software, training, whatever it might be, that you're giving them right up front, so that that you've got their attention, because you're one of the people that has shown them something that they probably would have had to paid for somewhere else, or maybe spent hours and hours and hours researching to finally find the answer that you're giving them right away for no investment, whatever it might be, or something that's very low cost, something that's just ridiculously priced that there's just no way they could turn it down. So that's your first initial task, is to somehow get their attention, get them to opening your emails. Now, once you have them opening your emails, your next step is to try to get them away from the inbox and out into your playground. Now, when I talk about your playground, there's actually several different places that you hang out on the internet on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a set amount of time each week that you hang out, that is the perfect opportunity for you to get people to come and be with you and hang out with you and see what you're actually like from out behind those autoresponder messages that they're getting. Examples of this would be your blog, your Facebook account if you want to add them, invite them to be a friend, Facebook pages or groups that you might have or belong to. Doesn't necessarily have to be your own pages or groups. It could be, any other groups or pages that you frequent on a regular basis and participate in, and you have a presence built there. Just something that they can go and see that you're interacting with people as well as the other people that are there at the same time. Forums that you hang out on, most everybody has 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 forums that they like to go to on a regular basis. You can invite them to places like that. You can invite them to watch your videos if you're into creating videos. That's an excellent way to really build the know and trust, is with videos, because actually with videos you're doing 2 things. One is you're exposing yourself by showing that you're not afraid to come out from behind the emails and talk to people and give them a little bit of knowledge of what you have, but then also you're willing to share with them some knowledge that you have that you really couldn't share the amount of content that you can in a video in an email. If you shared the same content in an email, it would just be extremely long and they probably would never read the whole thing. Same thing with a blog post. You could create a really great long 2,000 word blog post, but who's really going to read it? It would have to be just extremely entertaining and attention grabbing for somebody to read, a 1,500 or 2,000 word blog post. The search engines love that type of thing. They love for you to have, blog post or 1,000 or 2,000 words, because that's great content for them to send traffic to your sites. I mean, it's great for that. But actually getting somebody to read that amount of content is really, really tough. So videos work great for circumventing it and getting your ideas and your thoughts out to people and showing people, that you're a real person. And you don't necessarily have to be in front of the camera, just like, here right now, I'm not in front of the camera. Now, your Twitter account as a follower, you can invite people to follow you on Twitter. And if you post tweets on a regular basis, they can get to know you that way. If you're into doing Periscope, Periscope's fairly new. It's only been out for a few months, but a lot of people have adopted it and started using it. The thing about Periscope is you need to do it on a regular basis if you're going to do that, because people will tend to forget about you if you only do one occasionally. It's better if you're going to do the Periscopes to do them, at least a couple, 3 times a week at least. That way people get on a regular basis of watching for the tweets in your Twitter account and going to your scopes when you have them live. You can use your Skype account. You can ask them to add you as a contact or invite them to a group that you've created or another group that you belong to. In other words, anywhere that you can demonstrate that you're a real and not just a faceless autoresponder message. Any place that you can show them that you do interact with people and that you do have thoughts and opinions of your own and you're willing to share them openly with other people that are like-minded. That's the whole goal, is to show people that you're not just an automated set of messages that's kind of hitting their inbox every other day or a couple, 3 times a week. Now, once you prove to these people that you're real and that you're real flesh and blood just like they are, they will start to follow your lead and your recommendations. It doesn't really take a long time to develop this trust and getting them to know you and brand you. If once you start getting people to follow you out on places where you hang out on the internet, it doesn't take long at all. In fact, Dave Wood from Empower Network once made the statement that if you created one video every day, it doesn't matter what length the video is, if you created one video every day for 45 days, at the end of that 45 days, you would have a loyal following that would click every link in every video that you post over on YouTube. Now, I don't know how true that is. I've never really tried it just to be sure he's right, but Dave Wood is a video marketing expert, so if he says it works, you can pretty much trust that it would work. If you were willing to create a single video every day for 45 days, you would develop a following over on YouTube that people would look for your next video and click the links that you have in your descriptions there. Now, it doesn't matter if you're an affiliate marketer, a product creator, a coach, or even a service provider. Once you form this bond with them, you will be the one that they turn to first when they're looking for a solution that you have something that fills that need. You'll be the first one they turn to whenever they're looking to solve that problem. They'll know automatically that you stand for whatever it is you're marketing, and that they can trust you, and that they've seen you demonstrating yourself out on the internet besides the generated messages that they get in their inbox every week. So now that you've gained that bond with these people, what's next? What do you do next? Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to keep inviting them out to your playground, wherever that might be. Now, you preferably want to try to pick places out on the internet where you can mention or promote your products or services in some way. Now, it may not be that places that you can just flat out put out ads, saying click here to get this product. It may be places where you can just make recommendations or, hint at things that you have, or try to get people to come back to your blog where you have actual ads on your blog. But you want to try to get people to stay out there with you where you're at on the internet, in places that, you do have a chance of leading them back to your original point of contact, where you can give them more information about products and services that you have. Now, if you can achieve this, and like I said, this is not as hard as you might think. It doesn't take long at all to build this know and trust with people. It doesn't take nowhere near the effort that you would think that it would be with trying to convince them to buy something from you in an autoresponder series. In an autoresponder series, it could go anywhere from 3 days to 3 months before they'll make your next purchase with you. Once they get through, they see you out on the internet and they know that you're a real person and they know that you stand for what you talk about and they know that they can trust what you say, the time will be tremendously shorter. In fact, I would say it's probably 10 to 25% of what you would spend with autoresponder messages and hoping that they will open up every one of your emails just from wanting to generate an automated marketing campaign through autoresponder messages. But now once you achieve this though, first off, your sales or your commissions, depending on what kind of business model you're running, are going to increase, and your email open rates and click rates are going to skyrocket. Because once you develop this bond with these prospects and customers, they're going to be looking for every email you send, not just those first 3 to 5. They're going to be looking for every email that you send them because they know that each one of them could contain something that you're willing to share with them, and maybe in a venue where they can participate with you at the same time with it. Now, doing this, your business will double and triple in regular intervals, and I can attest to this for sure, that once I started opening up, offering people the chance to do business strategy calls with me and coming to the forums and the Facebook groups with me, that I started making double and triple the sales on a regular, consistent basis every 30 to 60 days. I could see the increase the amount of sales and conversions I was getting just from interacting with people and showing them that that I am a real person, that I do care about what I talk about, and that I do know something about what I'm talking about. So, like I said, it doesn't take as much as you think to generate this type of effort with people, but once you do it, you will see the results almost immediately. Like I said, you could drive traffic to an autoresponder. You could drive 1,000 clicks a day into your autoresponder. If you were going to let your autoresponder do every bit of the heavy lifting for you, you would have to have a sales funnel that converts at 20 to 30% for you to see the same kind of effort that you would get from just getting a smaller amount of traffic going into your autoresponder and getting those people to come out and meet you out on the other places on the internet and interacting with you, and then them following up with the rest of your emails that you send. And you would see that it doesn't take as many email messages either. You could actually have shorter autoresponder series and just rely strictly on broadcasts after the initial set has finished, because you've already developed the trust with the people that they're going to open your emails and listen to your recommendations. But the thing about it is, it all starts with stepping out from behind your autoresponder and creating that bond that will lead to your return path. That's the whole goal of what you're wanting to do, is to get people into your initial sales funnel and listening to you in your first emails, and then following you out on the internet. And once they start following you out on the internet, start leading them back to the places where you have your other products and services listed that that you can recommend to them. Now, like I said, it might be that you have to do it in subtle ways depending on where it is you like to hang out on the internet, where you interact with people. It may be that you have to do it in subtle ways of mentioning that you've done a review or a blog post, or you've created a new video, or it could be in places where you actually can put out actual ads and have ads that they can click on. But the whole goal is to step outside from behind that autoresponder to increase your conversions and getting people to really know and trust you and open the rest of your emails so that they will follow you out on the internet wherever you go and start to follow your recommendations and your leads. So do you guys have any questions about the presentation? Who's been trying to develop a following outside of their autoresponder? Tricia says, when I have something to share on Facebook, I never know whether it's best to share on my own timeline or website's page. Any suggestions for that? I would recommend, depending on the type of people you're adding as Facebook friends, you may want to share in pages and groups first as opposed to your own timeline. Like mine right now is a mixture of family and friends and then people that follow me out on the internet. So I've kind of got a mixed batch of people that are on my friends list. So there's some things that I don't want to share on my timeline, but I will share it in the pages and groups that I create. So it really just depends on how you're developing, your Facebook account as far as family and friends and what you would want to share with them. Because obviously all my family and friends don't care about what I do online, so they don't want to see constant messages about things that I do online. So I have to be kind of particular about things that I share that way. Jimmy's saying, if you have pen names for some of your niches, do you still try to establish that know and trust with the assumed persona? Yeah, you can, but it gets harder to do if you're working under pen names or personas because you're actually wearing different hats, and it's kind of hard to do that in some instances, especially if it's a niche where you've got a pen name that's, for instance, in a total different gender. Like one of the niches I'm in, I have a persona set up with a female is the pen name in it. So it would be extremely hard for me to interact with people with that account. That one, pretty much, I have to run it on autopilot. It's not one that I can actually interact with people. It is one of the niches that I run that I have to, let it do all on autopilot as much as possible. I will occasionally log into the Facebook account and make a few posts just to keep the account active, and it gets a few friend requests here and there. And then I have a Twitter account that I'll send some tweets to it just so that it stays active as well. But it's about as far as I can go with that one because it's not really a niche that I follow that close, so it's not something that I could really interact with people that well with it. You guys have any other questions on the presentation before we go to the questions? We got just a few questions from last week. I'll go ahead and pull those up, and if you guys think of anything else while I'm answering these, we'll take those as well. Okay. The first question was on last week's training, and actually I have a couple that was on last week's training. The first says, on the RSS traffic training from last week, is there a way to have more than one RSS feed from a single blog? And no, there's not really a good way you can have two RSS feeds from a single blog. Now, it is possible if you installed WordPress multi-user to be able to do that, to have multiple RSS feeds, but that'd be the only way you could possibly do it. With a normal WordPress install, you only have the one feed option. So using that scenario last week where I showed you how to do promoted posts and redirected posts with your RSS feed, you wouldn't be able to have more than one of those at a time going with a normal blog. With WordPress multi-user, you actually have different accounts that you can log into, and each one is like its own individual WordPress blog. It would be possible with doing it that way. And the next says, what are social signals? Are they backlinks? And yeah, sort of, social signals are backlinks in a way, but they're actually a different kind of backlinks. They're the kind of backlinks is not really the right word, but they're places out on the internet that have gained authority that Google and the other search engines, index, that when they see links from those places, they count them as possible places to index and spider for content. Examples of those would be Facebook groups and pages. Facebook groups and pages are indexed in the search engines. Now, private ones and hidden ones are not, but the ones that are made public are indexed and searched by the search engines. Pinterest boards are another place that search engines look for, content to follow. Twitter, especially tweets and retweets. Retweets are really good social signals because that shows the search engines, that people are interested in a topic if they're retweeting it. And then, of course, Instagram shares is another. But those are just a few examples of social signals. Now, you have other social signals as well from other Web 2.0 type websites and video sharing sites that count as well. Google Plus is another really great place to get social signals from. But generally, social signals are places where it's an interactive environment where people are talking about a website or a subject, and then the search engines are picking up on that and indexing that content and following those links if there might be any links. Like he says, you said before you had a GVO subs list of 12,000, which is inactive. What happened, and is it being revived? I have a GVO account that has 12,000 subscribers in it, and yeah, it's pretty much dead. I don't email it nowhere near as much as I used to. It's actually one that I built years ago, back before I started doing product creation. Is I actually created it when I was doing short reports back during that era is when I built that list. I can send an email to it and get some open rates from it, but it's not as good as it used to be. In fact, now when I can send out a broadcast of that 12,000 list, and I might get, a 1% open rate, which 1% on 12,000 people is only what 120 opens, is not very well at all, not very good at all. Now I also have another 15,000 people in another self-hosted autoresponder account that I actually built through CoReg when I was doing CoReg marketing, and it gets somewhat better open and click through rates, but it's still not as good as my Aweber Get Response or my Priceless Possibilities. My Priceless Possibilities account probably gets the highest open rates of all of them, even though more than likely it's because it's a smaller list. There's only like 800 people on that mailing list as opposed to my Aweber and Get Response, which has probably a combined total of 6,000 to 7,000 between the two. But the Priceless Possibilities is definitely the gets the most open rates, and I guess the reason is because I do a lot more sharing of content because I can actually share pages and video postcards and that kind of thing over on that system, whereas it's not as easy to do that with Aweber and Get Response. So yeah, I've got a couple of really big lists, Waikey, that for the most part aren't really that useful. The one GVO account, like I said, I'll be doing good if I can get a 1% open rate with it. So, it's pretty much useless, but, I do occasionally mail it out, especially, if I'm trying to get traffic to something to see what kind of conversions it might get. That 120 people, I have a chance at them making, a conversion or a sale. So, occasionally I'll send traffic out to it to see how something will convert. The next question from last week says, last week's training was cool. Do you have any other traffic tricks like that you can share? Actually, I have several other little small trainings similar to that one last week, and probably throughout the first of next year, I'm going to be bringing several of those onto some of these calls. I thought everybody liked that little traffic training I did last week. I got a really good response from it. In fact, I got more response back from it. People saying they were amazed by it, that you could do that kind of thing. So I do have several other little things like that I'll be bringing out in some of these calls first of next year. Okay, guys. Well, let's go ahead and call tonight. Have a great night, folks, and thanks for coming. I'll have the replay for this probably by Friday of this week. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.